The station floated in the darkness between stars, a massive ring of metal and light that housed representatives from nearly 1,000 worlds. Inside the grand chamber, Ambassador G1 Park stood at the center podium, her hands clasped behind her back. Above her, tier upon tier of seats rose in a circular pattern, filled with beings of every imaginable shape and size. Some had scales, others had fur. Some breathed oxygen, others required methane tanks, but all of them were staring down at her with the same expression: dismissal. Captain Daewon Kim watched from the visitors' gallery, his jaw tight. He had fought in 3 wars to protect Earth from raiders in the outer colonies. He had negotiated truces with hostile mining operations on the asteroid belt, but nothing had prepared him for the cold rejection he saw in this room. Ji-won's voice echoed through the chamber. For 40 years, humanity has sought membership in this council. We have followed every protocol. We have submitted every document. We have proven our technological capability, our cultural development, and our commitment to peaceful cooperation. A clicking sound came from the upper tiers. Counselor Vrath, a reptilian creature with yellow eyes and dark green scales, leaned forward. His voice hissed through the translation device. 40 years. Do you know how long most species in this chamber have existed? Millions of years. Your entire civilization is younger than some of our cities. G1 did not flinch. Age does not equal wisdom, counselor. We may be young, but we have much to offer. Another voice, ancient and resonant, filled the room. High Arbiter Quen, an insectoid being with compound eyes and 4 arms, spoke from the highest seat. You misunderstand our concern, Ambassador Park. It is not merely your age. It is your nature. In your brief history, you have fought countless wars among yourselves. You have destroyed ecosystems. You have created weapons capable of annihilating your own world. You are volatile. Daewon felt his fists clench. Everything Quen said was true, but it was also incomplete. Humans had learned. They had united. They had stopped the wars and healed the planet. But the Council did not want to hear that. G1 lifted her chin. Every species in this chamber has a violent past. The Taurians enslaved 3 neighboring worlds before joining the Council. The Kresh fought a civil war that lasted 2 centuries. The Vexen nearly drove themselves to extinction through biological warfare. Yet all of them were given seats here. Why are we different? Vrath's laugh was a wet, rasping sound. Because you are mayflies who think you are eagles. You live for barely a century. You rush through everything. You have no patience, no long-term thinking. You would disrupt the careful balance we have maintained for millennia. Then let us prove you wrong, G1 said quietly. Give us a probationary seat. Let us show you what humanity can contribute. High Arbiter Quen raised one clawed hand. The matter has been discussed extensively over the past solar cycle. We will now vote. All in favor of granting Earth membership in the Galactic Council, signal affirmation. Daewon held his breath. The chamber remained silent except for the hum of life support systems. All opposed. Signal negation. The chamber lit up with red lights. Tier after tier, seat after seat, nearly every representative voted against Earth. The display above showed the final tally. 847. Opposed. 3 abstentions. 0 in favor. G1 stood perfectly still. Daewon could see the tension in her shoulders, but her face remained calm. She bowed slightly to the chamber. I see, she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the vast room. Humanity came here, in good faith, asking for a seat at this table, asking to be recognized as equals, to contribute to the galactic community. She paused, and when she spoke again, her words were measured and cold. You should have given us one. Okan. Vrath waved a clawed hand dismissively. Is that a threat, Ambassador? No, Counselor. It is an observation. Humanity does not make threats. We make promises. And I promise you this. You will remember this day. She turned and walked toward the exit. Day One met her at the door, and together they moved through the corridors of the station. Other species moved aside, some with pity in their eyes, others with contempt. No one spoke to them. When they reached their ship, G1 finally allowed herself to sit down heavily. Day One sat across from her, his mind already working. During the session, while everyone had been focused on the speeches, he had been watching the station's systems. His neural implant had been scanning data flows, security protocols, network architecture. And he had found something interesting. The Council's security was old, complacent, full of holes. G1, he said carefully. What if I told you we could access every piece of data the Council has? Every treaty, every technology file, every secret they have kept for thousands of years. She looked at him sharply. That would be an act of war, only if they caught us. He leaned forward. They think we are primitive. They think we are harmless. They made their vote, and now they expect us to go home with our tails between our legs. They expect us to give up. G1 was quiet for a long moment. Then a thin smile crossed her face. They do not know humans very well, do they? No, Day One agreed. They really do not. As their ship detached from the station and began the long journey back to Earth, Day One sent an encrypted message to Admiral Taeyang Lee back home. The message contained only 3 words. Ghost. Protocol approved. Behind them, the Council station continued its eternal rotation. Its inhabitants already forgetting about the disappointed humans who had been rejected. They had made this decision 1,000 times before with 1,000 other species. It meant nothing to them. They had no idea that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. Earth had asked politely for a seat. Earth had been refused. Now Earth would take something far more valuable. Everything the Council had, and everything they had kept from the galaxy for millennia. The game had changed, and humanity had just learned that sometimes, when you are not invited to the table, you build your own. 3 months after the rejection, the Galactic Council received its last official communication from Earth. It was a brief message stating that humanity would respect the Council's decision and withdraw all diplomatic efforts. Then, silence. The Council expected anger, protests, perhaps even threats. Instead, Earth simply went quiet. Their ships stopped visiting Council space. Their diplomats returned home. Their communication channels closed. To the ancient species of the Council, this was normal. Another young race had learned its place. They had no idea what was happening on Earth. In a secure facility beneath Luna's surface, Dr. Hana Song stood before a holographic display showing schematics of alien technology. Around her, 50 of humanity's brightest scientists worked at stations, their fingers flying across holographic keyboards. The room hummed with energy and purpose. We have successfully reverse-engineered the Torian gravity drive, Hana announced to her team. But we are not just copying it. We are making it better. 30% more efficient, half the size, and twice the output. A young woman with short black hair looked up from her station. Young Mi Kang was only 19 years old, but she was already the best hacker Earth had ever produced. Dr. Song, I have accessed another layer of the Council database. They have been suppressing quantum communication technology for over 3,000 years. They claimed it was impossible. But the research is all here. They just did not want younger species to have it. Hana walked over to Youngmi's station and studied the data. Her eyes widened. If we develop this, we could have instantaneous communication across the entire galaxy. No light-speed delay. Our fleet coordination would be perfect. Already on it. Youngmi said with a grin. Give me 2 months. Youngmi said. Above them, on Earth's surface, Admiral Taeyang Lee stood on the observation deck of the United Defense Fleet headquarters in Seoul. Below him, Construction yards stretched for kilometers. Massive ship frames rose from the ground, covered in scaffolding and swarming with automated construction drones. Each ship was being built with a hybrid of human innovation and stolen alien technology. Minister Sung-ho Choi approached from behind. He was a thin man with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Admiral, the intelligence reports are confirmed. The Council has suppressed over 200 species in the past 10,000 years. Any civilization that showed too much promise was either rejected or quietly sabotaged. Tae-yang did not look away from the ships. Do we have a list? Yes. We have identified 43 species that were rejected in the past 1,000 years and are still active. Most of them are bitter, isolated, and would welcome allies. Contact them, quietly. Offer them technology trades. Nothing that would alert the Council, but enough to show we are different from the species that rejected them. Sung-ho nodded. What about the 3 species that abstained from voting against us? Tae-yang finally turned to look at him. The Kalari, the Methrin, and the Xiphons? They showed moral courage. Reward that. Send them our best scientists. Full technology exchange, no strings attached. Build trust. The Council will notice eventually. Let them notice. By the time they figure out what we are doing, it will be too late. Tae-yang gestured to the ships below. How long until the fleet is ready? 18 months for the first battle group. 3 years for full deployment. Make it 2.5 years total. We do not have time for delays. In another part of the world, Captain Dae-won Kim sat in a dark room with a dozen intelligence officers. Holographic displays showed Council patrol routes, military deployments, and political structures. For the past 3 months, they had been mapping every aspect of galactic civilization. The Council operates on the assumption that information is power, Dae-won explained. They control access to technology, to trade routes, to historical records. They keep younger species dependent and ignorant. But they made one critical mistake. What mistake? Asked one of the officers. They assumed their security was good enough. They have been in power for so long that they became arrogant. Their networks are accessible. Their communications can be intercepted, and their systems can be infiltrated. Youngmi's team has been inside their databases for 2 months, and they still have not noticed. He pulled up a new display. We now have complete maps of Council space, their military capabilities, their political divisions, and most importantly, their secrets. We know which species are unhappy with Council rule. We know which ones are barely holding power. We know where the cracks are. Another officer leaned forward. Are we really going to go to war with a 1,000-world alliance? Dae-won smiled coldly. No. We are going to make them go to war with each other. By the time we are done, the Council will collapse from within, and they will never see us coming. 2 years passed. Earth continued its silent preparation. Youngmi and her team of hackers became ghosts in the galactic network, stealing information, planting surveillance tools, and learning everything about Council operations. Hana's scientists achieved breakthrough after breakthrough, combining human creativity with alien knowledge to create technology that surpassed anything in the galaxy. Tae-yang's fleet grew in secret, each ship more advanced than anything the Council possessed. Ambassador Ji-won Park spent those years traveling to rejected species in secret, building alliances one conversation at a time. She spoke of shared grievances, of collective strength, of a better future. 40 different species pledged their support to humanity's cause. In the 30th month of Ghost Protocol, a Council patrol ship encountered a human vessel near the galactic rim. The patrol captain ordered the human ship to stop for inspection. The human ship complied, powering down its engines. The patrol ship moved closer, preparing to dock. Then, the human ship vanished. Not jumped to faster than light speed, not cloaked. It simply disappeared from all sensors and reappeared 30,000 kilometers away, then jumped away at a speed the patrol ship's computers said was impossible. The patrol captain filed an urgent report with Council security. The report was read, analyzed, and filed away as a sensor malfunction. After all, no species had the technology to move that fast. It had to be an error. But deep in Council Intelligence Headquarters, someone noticed. Someone began asking questions. And someone realized that Earth had been very, very quiet for a very long time. High Arbiter Quinn called an emergency session. We need to investigate human activity. Something has changed. Counselor Vroth waved his hand dismissively. They are primitives who went home in shame. What could they possibly do? That is what concerns me, Quinn replied. We hear nothing. No complaints. No protests. No activity. For a species we called volatile and impatient, they are being remarkably patient and quiet. Then send a delegation to Earth. Inspect their activities. Quinn issued the order. A council inspection fleet was assembled and sent toward Earth's solar system. They would arrive in 60 days. It would be the last mistake the Galactic Council ever made. The planet Velcon 4 had no strategic value to the Galactic Council, which made it perfect for exploitation. Its inhabitants, the Velcons, were a peaceful species who had barely achieved spaceflight. They had resources the Council wanted. Rare minerals buried deep in their planet's crust. The Council had offered a trade agreement that was little more than theft. And when the Velcons refused, the Council sent enforcers. 3 Council warships orbited the planet, their weapons trained on the largest city. Council enforcer Drax stood on the bridge of his flagship. His 4 arms crossed over his armored chest. He was a Krellian, a species bred for war, and he had crushed dozens of rebellions in his career. Send the final ultimatum, Drax ordered. They have 1 hour to surrender their mining rights, or we begin bombardment. His communications officer nodded and transmitted the message. Drax settled back to wait. These situations always ended the same way. The primitives would cry, beg, and eventually surrender. It was boring, but it was effective. 50 minutes later, his sensor officer spoke up. Sir, we have incoming ships. 3 vessels. Unknown configuration. Drax frowned. Who would dare interfere with a council operation? Identify them. The sensor officer's face went pale. Sir, the ships are transmitting human identification codes. For a moment, Drax was confused. Humans? The primitives who had been rejected 3 years ago? What are 3 human ships doing here? He got his answer when the human vessels appeared on his view screen. They were sleek, dark, and moved with a grace that his ships could never match. One of them positioned itself directly between his flagship and the planet. A communication channel opened. A human woman appeared on his screen. She wore a flight suit with insignia that marked her as military, and her eyes were hard as steel. Commander Sora Lim spoke in perfect galactic standard. Council vessels, you are ordered to withdraw from Velcon space immediately. Drax laughed. You order me? With 3 small ships against my battle group? Humans are even more foolish than I thought. Sora's expression did not change. I am giving you 1 chance to leave peacefully. Take it. Tom. Or what? You will attack us? That would be an act of war against the entire council. Yes, Sora agreed. It would be. Your choice. Drax's amusement vanished. These humans were either insane, or they knew something he did not. Either way, he would crush them as a lesson. All ships. Open fire. Destroy the human vessels. His 3 warships unleashed their weapons. Plasma cannons, missile batteries, and energy beams converged on the human ships. The space between them lit up with destructive force. When the light faded, the human ships were gone. Drax blinked. Report! Where did they go? Sir. They moved. Faster than our weapons. They are now behind us. Unprotected, Drax spun around to look at the tactical display. All 3 human ships had repositioned themselves behind his fleet in less than a second. Before he could issue orders, they opened fire. The weapons they used were nothing like what the Council possessed. Beams of coherent energy that cut through shields as if they were paper. missiles that moved faster than point defense systems could track, and something else, something his sensors could not explain. Weapons that seemed to warp space itself. His flagship shook as its shields collapsed under the assault. Return fire! All weapons! But his ships were too slow. The human vessels moved like dancers, anticipating every shot, dodging every beam. One of his escorts exploded as its reactor was breached. The other lost power and went dark, lifeless in space. Sora's voice came over the communication channel again, calm and professional. Stand down, Enforcer Drax. You have lost. Drax looked at his tactical display. One ship destroyed, one disabled, and his flagship with failing shields and damaged weapons. 3 years ago, humans had been barely capable of interplanetary travel. Now, they had ships that could destroy a council battle group in minutes. How? He whispered. How do you have this technology? We learned, Sora replied simply. Now, withdraw, or I will finish this. Drax gave the order to retreat. His flagship limped away from Velcon 4, leaving his destroyed and disabled ships behind. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, he immediately sent a priority message to Council headquarters. The message was simple. Humanity was now a threat that could not be ignored. Within days, word of the battle spread across galactic networks. Some species were shocked. Others were terrified. But among the rejected and the suppressed, a different emotion stirred. Hope. On the planet Methros, home of the Methrin people, Envoy Jae-Sung-Oh stood before their planetary council. The Methrin were an old species, wise and patient, and they had been among the 3 who abstained from voting against Earth. We thank you for your years of support, Jae-Sung said. Humanity does not forget its friends. Now we ask that you stand with us in what comes next. The Methrin first speaker, an elderly being with silver skin and deep eyes, studied Jae-Sung carefully. You are preparing for war with the Council. We are preparing to end the Council's tyranny. There is a difference. Is there? War is war, young human. Jae-Sung shook his head. The Council has suppressed countless species for millennia. They have stolen technology, destroyed civilizations, and maintained power through fear. We have evidence of all of it. We are not seeking conquest. We are seeking liberation. The first speaker was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. The Methrin will stand with Earth, not because we seek war, but because we seek justice. Similar conversations happened across dozens of worlds. The Kalari pledged their industrial might. The Xiphons offered their navigators, who knew every hidden route through the galaxy. 43 rejected species joined what was becoming known as the Liberation Coalition. Back on Earth, Admiral Taeyang Lee received report after report of species joining their cause. In his office, Daewon sat across from him, analyzing intelligence data. The Council knows something is happening, Daewon said. They are mobilizing forces. Their intelligence networks are actively searching for information about our activities. Let them search, Taeyang replied. By the time they figure out the full extent of our preparations, we will be ready. They will come for us. They cannot ignore what happened at Velcon 4. I know. That is what we want. We need them to commit their forces, to bring their fleet to us. Daewon raised an eyebrow. You want them to attack Earth? Not just attack. I want them to bring everything they have. The entire Grand Fleet. Every ship. Every weapon. Every species that owes them allegiance. I want them to commit fully to destroying humanity. That is a dangerous gamble. Taeyang smiled grimly. Only if we lose. 3 weeks after the battle at Velcon 4, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. High Arbiter Quen stood before the assembly, her compound eyes reflecting the chamber's lights. The human threat can no longer be ignored. They have attacked Council forces. They have interfered with Council operations. They have formed alliances with multiple species. This cannot stand. Action. Counselor Vrath rose from his seat, his voice filled with anger. I warned you all. I said they were dangerous. Now, look what has happened. Another counselor spoke up. What can 3 ships do against our might? Send a fleet. Crush them. Make an example. Quen raised her hand for silence. The matter is decided. We will mobilize the Grand Fleet. 5,000 warships, representing 200 species. We will travel to Earth's system and demand their immediate surrender. If they refuse, we will destroy their civilization as a warning to any who would defy the Council. The vote was unanimous. The greatest military force the galaxy had ever assembled began to gather. Ships from every corner of Council space received orders to converge on staging points. Within 60 days, they would be ready to depart for Earth. When Admiral Taeyang received the intelligence report about the Grand Fleet mobilization, he called a meeting of Earth's military command. They are coming. 5,000 ships, 60 days. The room was silent. Then Daewon spoke. Good. Everything is proceeding as planned. Taeyang nodded. Activate the defense grid. Contact our allies. And send a message to the Council. What should the message say? Asked a communications officer. Taeyang's smile was cold and hard. Tell them we are waiting. The Grand Fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of locusts blotting out the stars. 5,000 warships from 200 different species, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Their combined firepower could crack a planet's crust or boil away its oceans. They represented the full might of the Galactic Council, and they had come to crush humanity once and for all. Council Enforcer Drax stood on the bridge of his new flagship, positioned in the command tier of the fleet. High Arbiter Quen herself had joined the fleet. Observing from the grand battleship, at the fleet's center. This was not just a military operation. It was a statement. No species defied the Council and survived. Drax studied the tactical displays showing Earth's solar system. Report on human defenses. His sensor officer worked her console. Sir, we are detecting significant activity throughout the system. Defense satellites around Earth, Luna, and Mars. Mobile platforms at strategic points. But their fleet appears to be only 500 ships. Drax nodded. 500 ships against 5,000. They cannot hope to win. But even as he said it, doubt crept into his mind. He had seen what 3 human ships could do at Velcon 4. What could 500 do? Sir, we are receiving a transmission from Earth. President Yoonji Nam appeared on the view screen. She was an older woman, with gray hair and calm eyes. Behind her, the flags of Earth's United Nations hung on the wall. She spoke clearly and firmly. Grand Fleet of the Galactic Council, you have entered Earth's solar system with hostile intent. This is your only warning. Leave now, or face the consequences. Drax heard laughter across the command channel from other ships. One president of one small world was warning a fleet that could destroy 100 worlds. It would have been amusing if it were not so pathetic. High Arbiter Quen's voice came through. President Nam, surrender immediately. Submit your world to Council authority. Disband your military. Accept occupation. These are our terms. Yoonji's expression did not change. I have different terms. Leave our system. Dissolve the Council. Free all suppressed species. Allow true democratic representation for all civilizations. You are in no position to make demands, human. No. Yoonji agreed. You are in no position to refuse them. This is your last chance. Leave peacefully. Quen's reply was cold. All ships. Advance. Prepare to engage human forces. The Grand Fleet moved forward like a tidal wave. 5,000 ships entered the inner solar system, their weapons charging, their shields at maximum. Earth grew larger on their view screens, a small blue world that had dared to defy them. Then the defense grid activated. What Drax had thought were simple satellites suddenly revealed themselves as weapon platforms of terrifying sophistication. Thousands of them. Positioned throughout the system, in a perfect network, they opened fire simultaneously. Beams of energy connected platform to platform, creating a web of destructive force. Ships at the front of the Grand Fleet exploded as the beams sliced through them. Missiles launched from hidden positions on asteroids, each one finding its target with impossible accuracy. And something else. Weapons that created small distortions in space itself, crushing ships like tin cans. All ships, return fire, destroy those platforms, Drax shouted. The Grand Fleet unleashed its weapons. Space lit up with plasma fire and energy beams. Hundreds of defense platforms were destroyed. But for every platform that fell, 3 more appeared from hidden positions. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Then, Earth's fleet engaged. 500 human ships moved with precision and speed that defied physics. They did not charge forward like the Council ships. They appeared, struck, and vanished. They used hit-and-run tactics that no admiral had ever seen. They coordinated perfectly, moving as one mind. Admiral Tae-Young Lee commanded the defense from Earth's orbital command center. Around him, holographic displays showed every ship, every weapon, every movement of the battle. His officers worked with calm efficiency. Target the command tier. Hit them hard and fast, Tae-Young ordered. Commander Sora Lim led her squadron in a daring attack run. They jumped directly into the middle of the enemy formation, fired on the command ships, and jumped out before the enemy could respond. 3 command ships exploded, throwing the Grand Fleet's coordination into chaos. Young Mi-Kang sat in a secure facility beneath Seoul, her fingers dancing across holographic keyboards. She was inside the Grand Fleet's communication network. A ghost in their systems. Admiral, I have access to their tactical network, sending you their battle plans now. Also, I am introducing some errors into their targeting systems. Across the Grand Fleet, weapons that should have hit human ships missed by critical margins. Coordination between ships began to fail. Orders were delayed or corrupted. The Council's commanders struggled to understand what was happening to their systems. Dr. Hana Song watched from a research station on Luna as her greatest creation activated. The Singularity Net. A weapon that had taken 3 years to develop. Across the battlefield, invisible fields suddenly collapsed into points of infinite gravity. Dozens of enemy ships were caught in the micro-black holes, crushed and torn apart by forces beyond comprehension. But Earth's true weapon was not technology. It was information. Captain Daewon Kim transmitted a message on all Council frequencies. His voice was calm and clear. Soldiers of the Grand Fleet, hear me. You are fighting for a council that has lied to you for millennia. We have evidence. We have documents. We have proof that the council has suppressed your species, stolen your technology, and held you back from achieving your true potential. As he spoke, Youngmi's team flooded the Grand Fleet's networks with data, thousands of classified documents, secret council meetings, evidence of manipulation and suppression spanning 10,000 years. Every ship in the fleet received the information. The council told your ancestors that certain technologies were impossible. Daewon continued. They were not impossible. The council had them and kept them from you. They told you that younger species were dangerous. But the only danger was to their power. They created fear to maintain control. On ships throughout the Grand Fleet, crews began to read the documents. They saw evidence of the Council refusing to help their homeworlds during crises. They saw records of technological suppression. They saw proof that their species had been held back intentionally. A Kalari ship suddenly stopped firing. Then another. Then 10 more. A Xiphon battle group withdrew from the fight. A Methrin squadron turned and began firing on Council leadership ships. Councillor Vrath watched in horror from his command ship as the fleet began to fracture. This is treason! All ships, ignore the human lies. Continue the attack. But it was too late. The truth had spread like fire through dry grass. Species that had harbored doubts now saw proof. Species that had been loyal now questioned everything. The Grand Fleet was not just fighting humanity, it was fighting itself. Admiral Taeyang saw the chaos spreading through the enemy fleet. He activated his communication channel to all human ships. All units, intensify the attack. Focus on leadership vessels. Break their command structure. The battle reached its peak. Thousands of ships filled the space around Earth, firing at each other in a chaotic melee. But the humans fought with purpose and coordination. Every strike was calculated. Every movement was planned. Sora's squadron located Vroth's command ship. They attacked with everything they had. Missiles struck the shields. Energy beams cut through armor. The command ship tried to flee, but human ships were faster. Counselor Vrath's ship exploded in a ball of white fire. High Arbiter Quen watched the battle from her battleship, her compound eyes seeing everything. The Grand Fleet was breaking apart. Species were fighting each other. The humans were winning. 10,000 years of council rule was collapsing in a single day. She opened a communication channel to Earth. President Nam. We request negotiations. Eun-ji appeared on the screen again. Behind her stood Admiral Taeyang, Captain Dae-won, and Ambassador Ji-won Park. Eun-ji's expression was hard. The time for negotiations was 3 years ago when we asked for a seat. What are your terms? Quen asked quietly. Surrender. Dissolve the council. Submit to justice for crimes against the galaxy. Allow the formation of a new government based on true representation and equality. Quen looked at the battlefield. At the thousands of ships fighting and dying. At the empire she had helped rule, crumbling around her. She had lived for 3,000 years. She had seen civilizations rise and fall, but she had never seen anything like humanity. We accept your terms, she said finally. The station that had once been the seat of the Galactic Council now flew a different flag, where the Council's symbol had hung. A new emblem took its place. A circle of stars surrounding a single white star representing Earth with the words Galactic Commonwealth written in 200 languages beneath it. The station itself had been renamed Unity Station, and its grand chamber had been rebuilt. Ambassador Ji-won Park stood in that chamber once again, but this time she stood at the center of a round table, not a podium below tiers of judgment. Around her sat representatives from over 300 species, all equal. All with voices that mattered. The old hierarchy was gone. The tiers had been removed. Now everyone sat at the same level. It had been 6 months since the battle at Earth. 6 months of transition, negotiation, and rebuilding. The Grand Fleet had disbanded. The Council had surrendered. And now came the hard work of building something better. Ji-won called the assembly to order. Welcome to the first official session of the Galactic Commonwealth. Today, we begin the work of creating a government that serves all species equally. High Arbiter Quen sat among the representatives, no longer in a position of authority. She had been stripped of her title, but had been allowed to attend as a witness to what came next. She watched Ji-won with a mixture of regret and respect. President Eun-ji Nam addressed the chamber via holographic projection from Earth. 3 years ago, humanity came to the old council, asking to be recognized. We were refused. We were told we were too young, too dangerous, too volatile. Perhaps they were right about the danger, but not in the way they thought. We were dangerous to their system of control and suppression. She paused, letting her words sink in. The council refused us a seat, so we dismantled their table and built a new one. A round table. A table with seats for everyone. No species above another. No ancient empires dictating terms to younger civilizations. Just equals working together. Applause rippled through the chamber. Not all species were happy with the new order. Some had benefited from the old council's power structure. But most recognized that change had been necessary, even if it had come through fire and battle. Minister Sung-ho Choi presented the first proposal to the Commonwealth. We propose the Technology Liberation Act. All technology that the old council suppressed will be shared freely among all member species. Quantum communication, advanced medical treatments, clean energy systems. Everything that was kept hidden will be revealed. The vote was overwhelming in favor. Within days, data files were transmitted across the galaxy. Species that had struggled with disease suddenly had cures. Civilizations that had been limited by slow communication gained instantaneous networks. The act of sharing elevated hundreds of worlds in mere months. Captain Dae-won Kim, now promoted to admiral, worked with a special tribunal to investigate council crimes. The evidence his teams had gathered during Ghost Protocol filled entire databases. They documented 10,000 years of suppression, manipulation, and exploitation. The Taurian Empire enslaved 3 worlds with council approval. Day 1 read from one report. The Kresh were prevented from developing antimatter technology for 2,000 years. The Vexen were quarantined not because they were dangerous, but because their biological research threatened council medical industries. The list went on and on. As each crime was revealed, the species affected were given restitution. Occupied worlds were freed. Stolen technology was returned. Species that had been forbidden to explore certain regions of space were given access. But not all council leaders faced justice equally. Councillor Vrath was dead, killed in the battle. Others had fled to distant regions of space. Those who remained and cooperated were shown mercy. Those who resisted faced trial. High Arbiter Quen stood before the tribunal one day. Dae-won sat on the panel of judges. He studied the ancient insectoid being who had ruled for 3,000 years. High Arbiter Quen, you are charged with crimes against galactic civilization, suppression of species, withholding vital technology, maintaining systems of control through fear. How do you plead? Quen's voice was quiet but steady. I plead guilty to all charges. I helped maintain a system that I believed kept the galaxy stable and peaceful. I was wrong. Stability without justice is not peace. It is merely the absence of war. Dae-won nodded slowly. Your honesty is noted. The tribunal sentences you to exile from galactic politics. You will live out your remaining years on a world of your choosing, but you will never hold power again. Quen bowed her head. I accept the judgment. As she left the chamber, she paused near Ambassador Ji-won Park. Ambassador, I said once that you were dangerous. I was right, but not for the reasons I thought. You were dangerous because you believed in something better. You were dangerous because you refused to accept injustice. I should have listened. Quote, Ji-won's expression softened slightly. High Arbiter, you lived in one era. Help us build the next. Share your knowledge, your experience. But this time, use it to help, not control. Quen considered this. Then she nodded. I will try. 3 species received special recognition at the first Commonwealth ceremony. The Kelari, Methrin, and Xiphons, who had abstained from voting against humanity 3 years earlier, were honored for their moral courage. The Methrin first speaker accepted the recognition with grace. We did not know if we were right to abstain. We only knew that the rejection felt wrong. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is refuse to participate in injustice, even when everyone else believes it is right. Commander Sora Lim was promoted to the rank of Fleet Commander and given the task of training a new Commonwealth Defense Force. She stood before a class of young officers from 50 different species. We did not fight to conquer, she told them. We fought to free. That is what the Commonwealth Defense Force will do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We stand against oppression. We ensure that no species ever again faces the choice between submission and destruction. Abitin, Argensin. Dr. Hana Song led the Commonwealth Science Council, coordinating research across hundreds of worlds. The pace of innovation exploded as species shared knowledge freely. Within a year, medical technology advanced by centuries. Energy production became cleaner and more efficient. Space travel became faster and safer. Young Mi Kang, the young hacker who had cracked the Council's networks, was offered a position as head of Commonwealth cybersecurity. She declined, preferring to work in education instead. She traveled to dozens of worlds, teaching young people about technology and showing them that knowledge was meant to be shared, not hoarded. One day, Admiral Taeyang Lee stood in his office on Earth, looking at reports from across the galaxy. President Eun-ji entered and stood beside him. 60 new species have applied for Commonwealth membership this month, she said. We are growing faster than we anticipated. That is good, but growth brings challenges. We need to ensure we do not become what we destroyed. Eun-ji nodded. That is why we built in safeguards. Term limits on all leadership positions. Open voting for all major decisions. Transparency in all operations. We learned from the Council's mistakes. Taeyang smiled slightly. They refused us a seat. Now we are building a table so large that everyone in the galaxy can sit at it. At Unity Station, a new discovery was announced. Youngmi had detected signals from outside their galaxy. Not random noise, but organized transmissions. Evidence of other civilizations in distant galaxies. The Commonwealth Chamber buzzed with excitement. New galaxies meant new species, new knowledge, new possibilities. It also meant new challenges. Ji-won stood at the center of the round table and addressed the assembly. We have spent these months rebuilding our own galaxy. Now we are receiving signals from beyond. Other civilizations are out there. The question is, what do we do? A representative from the Xiphon spoke up. We must contact them. Share what we have learned. Show them that cooperation is possible. A Kelari representative added, but we must be cautious. We do not know their intentions or capabilities. Debate filled the chamber. Finally, a vote was called. The result was clear. The Commonwealth would reach out to these distant civilizations with messages of peace and cooperation, but would remain vigilant and prepared. As the session ended, Ji-won walked to a window overlooking the stars. Captain Day-1 joined her. Do you think we did the right thing? She asked quietly. Building the Commonwealth? Overthrowing the Council? All of it. The Ghost Protocol, the battle, everything. Day-1 was quiet for a moment. I think we did the necessary thing. Was it right? History will judge that. But I know this. We gave hundreds of species a chance at freedom they would never have had otherwise. We stopped a system that had suppressed civilizations for 10,000 years. If that is not right, I do not know what is. Ji-won smiled. 3 years ago, I stood in that chamber and told them they should have given us a seat. And now? Now we have given seats to everyone. No more gatekeepers. No more artificial hierarchies. Just beings working together to build something better. Below them, ships from 100 worlds docked at Unity Station. Species that had once been enemies now worked side by side. Technology flowed freely. Knowledge was shared. And for the first time in galactic history, young civilizations were not held back but helped forward. Earth had not wanted to conquer the galaxy. Earth had wanted to join it. When refused, humanity had done what it did best. Adapted, innovated, and found another way. They had not just earned a seat at the table. They had built a new table and invited everyone to sit. In the grand chamber of Unity Station, the words carved above the entrance read, "No species shall be denied a voice. No civilization shall be held back. All are equal under the stars." Ambassador Ji-won Park looked at those words and nodded with satisfaction. Humanity had been refused. So they had taken not just a seat, but the whole table. And they had used it to set a better example than those who had come before. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had intended.